Chapter 2, Written in the Rocks.
The formation of a fossil requires a very specific set of circumstances. Remains of an animal or plant must find its way into the water, sink to the bottom, and quickly get covered by sediment. After being buried, the hard parts of the fossils become infiltrated or replaced by minerals. Once fossil is formed, it has to survive harsh environmental changes. Lastly, it must be discovered. Measuring the ages of rocks is done by radioisotopes, which measure the half-life of an isotope's decay. Different isotopes decay at different rates, therefore it is possible to tell the age of an igneous rock near the sedimentary rocks that bear the fossils.
The fossil record from bottom to top shows the timeline of life's history, beginning with the first organisms that arose 3.5 billion years ago, and shows the changes throughout time that shows us a gradual transition of major groups. First true amphibians came into existence 50 million years later, followed by the reptiles 50 years after. 250 million years ago, the first mammals came into existence, followed by the birds 50 years after, which due to that diversity came into play. Having those fossils resemble living species, humans are the newest members of our lineage, coming about 7 million years ago in evolutionary time.
To see gradual evolutionary change within a single lineage, one needs a good succession of sediments. These sediment samples can be done, for example, by thrusting a long tube down the seafloor and pulling up a columnar core filled with sample in order. Some of the examples done to show evolution are as follows. On the left is an example of a collection of marine protozoan showing smooth, gradual change of its number of chambers. On the right is a chart showing the collection of radiolarans demonstrating unsmooth evolutionary change of thorax size. It is unknown what selective pressure drives evolutionary changes in examples such as the radiolarans. It is always easier to document evolution in the fossil record than to explain what caused it.
For every two species, there was once a single species that was an ancestor of both, aka the missing link. The chance of finding that single missing link is almost zero, but we can find some other species in the fossil record that are close cousins. What would the common ancestor look like between reptiles and birds? Our first thought is that it would resemble something halfway between a reptile and a bird, like this image of a duck with a crocodile head. Obviously, this option is wrong. The common ancestor of birds and reptiles was an ancient reptile or dinosaur.
Transitional form between fish and amphibians was discovered in 2004. Creatures that were stated to be tetrapods came 30 million years later after fish. How did early fish evolve to survive on land? Came the discovery of the Tiktaalik rosette fossil. The Tiktaalik rosette fossil features indicates a relationship between lobe-finned fish to amphibian. Tiktaalik's two traits state: one, the animal had ribs which helped them breathe inland; two, fewer bones in its limbs that made the animal similar in the number and position to land creatures. Tiktaalik could live in shallow water to find food or to avoid predators. Overall, the Tiktaalik is the fossil that connects a fish with the amphibian.
One of the most famous evolutionary phenomena is the change of reptile to bird. Although not many intermediate fossils of reptiles to modern birds have been found, the fossils of theropods, which are agile carnivorous dinosaurs that walked on two legs, have been discovered from 200 million years ago. One of the most famous intermediates of all transitional forms discovered in Germany was the crow-sized Archaeopteryx lithographica shown here on the left. Archaeopteryx is really more reptile than bird, but has two distinct bird-like traits: large asymmetrical feathers and an opposable big toe, probably used for perching. After the discovery of Archaeopteryx, later fossils were found in China, such as the Microraptor Gu and the Mei Long. It is due to the existence of transitional fossils that evolution of birds from reptile is fact.
It may be hard to believe, but whales came from land animals. Since the 17th century, we know that whales are mammals. DNA evidence and certain traits show their ancestors lived on land. Whales evolved from a species of artiodactyls called Indohyus. These raccoon-sized animals are closely related to whales because it has special features of the ears and teeth seen only in modern whales and their aquatic ancestors. Biologists believe the closest living relative to whales is the hippopotamus. The fossil record teaches us three things. First, the rocks don't lie. The record in the rock confirms several predictions of evolutionary theory. It shows the gradual changes and splitting in lineages and the existence of transitional forms between very different kinds of organisms. Second, fossils occur in order that makes evolutionary sense. For example, the earliest birds appear after dinosaurs, but before modern birds. Lastly, evolutionary change nearly always involves new species becoming modified versions of older ones.